It's been a long time, America. I think we should check in on an old friend, China. And by friend, I mean superpower enemy hell-bent on defeating us. China and the United States have been on opposite ends of a tug-of-war ever since the American desire to stop the spread of communism throughout the world. Unfortunately, it's not working too well. It's 2022, and China is still lying, cheating, and pushing their own agenda and growing more powerful as we get more offended. Let me show you what China's actually been doing. Time for a reality check. Remember the Hong Kong protests? Every day people fighting a corrupt authority? We really should have listened to those guys. What were they doing? Questioning authority. Something that Chinese citizens cannot do, unless they're fine with never seeing their families again. No, seriously. We have no idea how many people have been removed from their jobs, received death threats, or mysteriously vanished from existence. All thanks to China not believing in freedom. And we're not any better in the West. For starters, we can't question any of the science that contradicts what Supreme Leader Dr. Anthony Fauci says, nor can we put out any information that doesn't fit with the narrative of the global elites. And you know why? Because China is in control of our lives. Here's two examples. Even though almost every virus is named after where it was first discovered, the world has been so hesitant to call it the Wuhan coronavirus because employees in the Wuhan Institute of Virology were afraid to be linked to it. Give me a break. Another instance was when Chinese diplomat Zhao Lijiang told a briefing that although China was the first to report cases, it doesn't necessarily mean the virus originated in China. Yes, it does. Contrary to how you've been told to think, humanity typically starts investigating a virus based on where the first cases are reported. The media shouldn't be playing devil's advocate when it comes to virus origins, especially when the suspected nation is communist. Oh wait, you think China doesn't influence our media?
I think he has put it out there that it is inconclusive and we don't know.
Well, let me ask a more direct question. Did you see any evidence in your investigation of him downplaying the lab leak hypothesis?
No, I did not. I did not.
They should be held in some way responsible for this.
You know, China did a lot of things right, and it's sad that even the U.S., that you would have expected to do this well, did it particularly poorly.
So, as we sat on the sidelines while people who questioned the pandemic origins disappeared, China continued to push their own narrative and develop a better strategy. In 1993, the Washington Post reported that the US intelligence community is worried that China may have revived and possibly expanded its germ weapon program, which, if even only slightly true, would mean China has been dabbling in some dangerous areas for decades. China obviously denied those allegations, but then oddly decided to let the world know that they built a new and improved surveillance system that would prevent another SARS-like virus outbreak, which, one could argue, would only be necessary if there was some sort of concern of a viral outbreak. At this point, I'm done trusting China, and frankly, you should be too. But for some reason, America's leaders aren't. Last year, Congressman Guy Reschenthaler discovered 1.1 million taxpayer dollars were sent from the U.S. Agency of International Development to the New York-based nonprofit EcoHealth Alliance for an agreement that EcoHealth had with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, who we now know was conducting gain-of-function research. But get this, USAID said they never approved this type of research because it studied viruses that could be harmful to humans. Yet Wuhan still got that American money. Wonder how that happened, but more on that later. Congressman Reschenthaler responded with a letter to the USAID administrator saying, "I find it deeply disturbing that American taxpayers footed the bill for over $1 million to support dangerous and potentially deadly research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a laboratory with ties to the Chinese Communist Party and military biological research. Me too, Congressman. Me too. More recently, Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, aka Captain COVID, has changed his position on the pandemic origins more than Pete Davidson has changed girlfriends. Guess what, Fauci? It doesn't matter what you say, because frankly, we don't care. Instead, we're going to rely on cold, hard evidence. Just this year, disclosed federal documents have been shared that detail how SARS-CoV-2 was created at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, courtesy of EcoHealth Alliance gain-of-function funds. And not only was it created, it was dated all the way back to March of 2018. That's over a year prior to the first documented COVID-19 case. The Public Health Emergency website defines gain-of-function as research that improves the ability of a pathogen to cause disease, enabling assessment of the pandemic potential of emerging infectious agents. That seems to be exactly what the lab in Wuhan was doing. Which brings us back to a question from earlier: how did Wuhan end up getting US funding despite going directly against US policy? The US Department of Defense initially rejected the proposal of having EcoHealth Alliance fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab because of the threats to humans this research posed. But oh no, here comes the Fauci. Dr. Anthony Fauci and his posse over there at the NIAID did not reject the proposal. This allowed the EcoHealth Alliance to continue their research and has since then used the Wuhan lab as a place to work. To simplify this, it seems like Fauci's crew gave the green light for taxpayer money to be sent to Wuhan by way of EcoHealth, which would help explain some of Fauci's actions at the very beginning of the pandemic.
It's really a big difference with the Chinese this time now. They look like they're being quite transparent and cooperative with us.
That was Fauci praising China for its cooperation and transparency, which, if you were paying attention at the beginning of this, was the exact freaking opposite of what was happening. So why, then, was Fauci taking China's side so early on? Why is it that in a meeting in February 2020, Fauci was trying to suppress the notion that COVID-19 escaped from a lab? Why did he continue to hold that position long after serious questions about the natural creation of the virus were raised? Was it perhaps because Fauci knew that a department that he oversaw was on the hook for sending funds to Wuhan from the very beginning? Dr. Fauci said, under oath,
that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
But here's the thing. Over the last 10 years, the NIH has changed their definition of gain-of-function research and now call it research involving enhanced potential pandemic pathogens. With that definition change, EcoHealth argued that since this particular bat virus in the Wuhan lab didn't spread amongst humans, it didn't count as gain-of-function. So not only did Fauci and the NIH get around the gain-of-function problem by changing the definition, they were flat out wrong or lying when they said the Wu flu didn't spread to humans. Basically, when Fauci says this,
the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute.
Think of this.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
So why is Dr. Fauci and the EcoHealth Alliance so afraid of showing their hand? Is it not strange that documents were hidden that showed the true origins of the virus and who funded the research? Are we all seriously just fine with having government departments fund whatever they feel like? And then, when it comes to bite them in the butt, instead of firing them, we sit and watch them countless times a week on our national news for over 2 years? And that's all before we ask, why is America giving money to Chinese labs in the first place? Especially when what's discovered in those labs could end up being used against us? Why do we seem to care so much about advancing our enemy? China played us and played the world. And instead of having the separation and ability to call them out for causing the largest psychological and economic catastrophe in modern human history, we found ourselves so tangled up with China and so in bed with the CCP, our leaders couldn't find the solid footing to strike when we needed it most. It may be hard to hear this out loud, but somebody's got to say it. China strategically orchestrated this pandemic and used American funds to research the infectious disease that they would let slip to the rest of the world. And what are we doing about it? Karens are losing their minds over masks, BLM is burning down cities, and we sit in our cramped apartments surrounded by our devices, all of which come directly from China. It didn't matter that the CCP injected its propaganda into all of our media, nor was it a big deal that they utilized disinformation that spread across the world faster than the virus. The world may be suffering, but China's economy is booming. Wake up, America. China is working overtime to beat us. In fact, with their ideas invading our culture and our government too scared to fight back, in many ways, they already have.